Great, thank you for reminding me. We welcome everybody to West Newton Meeting for Worship. If you haven't already muted yourselves, you might do that so that we don't get feedback and that sort of thing. Brent, I believe, is probably home by now. He's been traveling this week, and so he's not here with us this morning. We might keep him and Nancy in our prayers since they are not with us. We obviously have two members of the Broken Ribs Club we need to keep in our prayers, Dave and Sue. Also, I mentioned earlier, Dan Berger's girlfriend, Chris, passed away, so we need to remember her family. Are there other joys or concerns that we want to share before meeting starts? Nancy Bailey. Yes, thank you, Norma, for reminding me. Other joys or concerns we want to share? Let's settle into some open worship, and Sylvia is our worship leader this morning, so she will speak to us out of the silence as she feels led.
The words to the hymn that Norma played are this: for the fruit of all creation, thanks be to God. For his gifts to every nation, thanks be to God. For the plowing, sowing, reaping, silent growth while we are sleeping, future needs in earth safekeeping, thanks be to God. In the just reward of our labor, God's will is done. In the help we give our neighbor, God's will is done. In our worldwide task of caring for the hungry and despairing, in the harvest we are sharing, God's will is done. On Thursday of last week, Dan and I were with a few people from Marshalltown First Friends at a very tall and very old brick church in downtown metropolis, Marshalltown. For the past several years, the church has been known as the House of Compassion. Dan is good friends with a man who used to coordinate some of the activities there when it included a food pantry and an overnight housing shelter for homeless people, both of which have been discontinued for various reasons. We were there to serve a meal to any local folks who needed something to eat. The town and surrounding community churches and a few other groups take turns sending volunteers to prepare and serve meals about once every 2 months is when it rolls around to each church. Meals are served there 6 nights a week, year-round. The food supplies come from various sources, such as local grocery stores who have surplus breads or muffins or donuts, and some other foods nearing their expiration dates. Some foods are purchased with money that's donated. The House of Compassion also hosts a supply closet that offers paper products and cleaning supplies and hygiene items to those who are qualified by financial income to use it. They also offer medical vouchers and limited financial assistance for paying utility bills. One activity they do annually is called Stuff the Bus. And in that one, over 3,000 backpacks last year were distributed throughout Marshall County. They also do an Adopt a Family program, similar to what Goodwin Center does, that offers charitable-minded people the chance to furnish food and Christmas gifts for families in need. Said about 900 children are served in that program. So twice, we have gone to a soup supper, which is a fundraiser for the House of Compassion, where high school art students have made ceramic bowls for the occasion. Those who come eat there can choose a bowl for their soup, and when they're finished, they get to take the bowl home. I think I counted about 14 bowls in our cabinet, so Dan has been there many more years before I came on the scene. They're nice bowls. We have gone to the House of Compassion to help with meals maybe 7 or 8 times so far. And a few times we've gone with the food preparation group, and other times we've gone with the serve and clean up group. The website for the House of Compassion reports that there are an average of 50 people who come for the meals. We've been there when there were 60 people, and we've been there when there were 30. During the pandemic, all meals were prepared and for carryout, but now there are tables and chairs for people to come inside to eat. If we wanted to, we could go sit down with the people there and maybe have a conversation and get to know them. There are women who come alone, and there are men who come alone, and there are a few who come with children. I haven't been there often enough to learn who the regulars are, but last Thursday, one man returned to the serving counter and sheepishly asked if he could have seconds. Well, we aren't supposed to do that, but the guests were few that evening and we had plenty of food, so we traded his empty tray for another full one. And a few minutes later, one of the women from the church who serves there often and recognized that man came to the serving window from behind us and took napkins to wrap up another hamburger and another sweet roll and a little dish of peaches or pears, whatever it was, pineapple, which she took to this relatively young man, not knowing he'd already had a second helping. And I watched him as he ate his third meal. When he got up to leave, he turned to us with a big smile, he waved, and he called out a very sincere thank you. But I had been particularly concerned about another man with shaggy gray hair and a beard. He had been waiting outside in the rain when we arrived about half an hour before opening time. It had been raining all day, and he had a purple towel across his shoulders, and it was quite wet. He was not wearing a coat. The lady in charge did let him in a little early, but not before he was soaked. After he ate, he came back to the serving window and asked the 3 of us standing there Do you know if the shelter on 18th Street is open? I heard it might be closed by now. Well, I told him I was new in town and didn't know much, but the other two ladies didn't have an answer either. So we turned to the other helpers in the kitchen to see if they had answers, and no one knew. But one of the ladies suggested he go to the Salvation Army building, which was about 7 blocks away, but she didn't know how to tell him how to get there. She thought maybe he could get overnight accommodations. Well, I was guessing the man wasn't real familiar with Marshalltown either, and after getting to no help, I saw him turn toward the door and throw up his hands in the air like, what's a fellow to do now? And I've been thinking about him ever since. And I've started to do research, the research it might take to give him some answers next time. Every time I go to the House of Compassion, I think about the book titled Same Kind of Different as Me. I don't know how many of you have read it, but it's about 2 men who grow up in similar situations because they begin their life in poverty. One is Black and one is white. But the white man, whose name is Ron Hall, finds opportunity to improve his financial situation by transporting expensive art pieces, and he becomes pretty wealthy. The Black man, who's Denver Moore, becomes a homeless man who depends on the charity of others for his shelter and food. The two meet when Ron's wife, who's a good church lady, is serving in the food line, similar to what we were doing at the House of Compassion. She talks her husband into coming and serving in the food line too, and the rest of the story develops as the good church people develop a special interest in this Black man and how he responds to their pity and charitable efforts. He's a quiet man, not very smiley, not at all smiley, and rather aloof and distant from people that try to help him. I also always wonder how the people who come to the House of Compassion for a meal feel about the good-hearted people who are trying to help them, people who try to fix and serve food for them. I wonder if they feel humiliated and embarrassed. Do those hungry people have hope that things will ever change for them? Will things ever be better for them? I also think about the book we studied at West Newton Friends a few years ago called When Helping Hurts, How to Alleviate Poverty Without Hurting the Poor and Yourself. The authors are Brian Fickert and Steve Corbett. I have selected some quotes from that book to help us remember. Steve says, when we work with poor people, if we treat only the symptoms or if we misdiagnose the underlying problem, we will not improve their situation, and we might actually make their lives worse. Brian says this, poverty alleviation occurs when the power of Christ's resurrection reconciles our key relationships through the transformation of both individual lives and local, national, and international systems. Steve says, while poor people mention having a lack of material things, they tend to describe their condition in far more psychological and social terms than our North American audiences. Poor people typically talk in terms of shame, inferiority, powerlessness, humiliation, fear. North American audiences tend to emphasize a lack of material things such as food and money and clean water, medicine and housing. And then again, Steve says, if you are a North American Christian, the reality of our society's vast wealth presents you with an enormous responsibility, for throughout the scriptures, God's people are commanded to show compassion to the poor. In fact, doing so is simply part of our job description as followers of Jesus Christ. While the biblical call to care for the poor transcends time and place, passages such as 1 John 3:17 should weigh particularly heavy on the minds and hearts of North American Christians. That scripture is, if anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need, but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Of course, there is no one-size-fits-all recipe for how Christians should respond to this biblical mandate. Some are called to pursue poverty alleviation as a career, while others called to do it as volunteers. Some are called to engage in hands-on relational ministry, while others are better suited to support frontline workers through financial donations, prayer, and other types of support. Each Christian has a unique set of gifts, callings, and responsibilities that influence the scope and manner into which to fulfill the biblical mandate to help the poor. In other words, in the book, When Helping Hurts, we learn that though responding to immediate and emergency needs is the right thing to do, if we do only that, if we only supply food for hungry people in our neighborhood, we may teach them to rely on such relief on a daily basis. You know that Chinese proverb, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. If we feed the poor one day at a time, they continue to lack feelings of empowerment, of inferiority. But if we can work to understand and address the causes of the problems and to change the system, perhaps the severity or the frequency of their problems will be reduced, and people will be able to rise up with confidence and encouragement to meet the opportunities that awaits them in this world. On our way home from the House of Compassion, both Dan and I commented on how much we take for granted. We were actually feeling rather guilty that we hadn't paid more attention to the needs of that man with a wet purple towel on his shoulders who was looking for a place to spend the night. Instead, we gratefully listed those comforts of our lives that we enjoy every day, such as a warm house and running water and plenty of warm, dry coats and an abundance of food in our cabinets, freezer, and refrigerator. We don't know why it is that we were born in such comfortable circumstances and others are not. We even said we are so fortunate. Or did we say that we are so blessed? But then what does being blessed mean? Does God bless us by putting us in circumstances where we're comfortable? As we approach Thanksgiving, how will we count our blessings? For what will we give thanks? Will we give thanks for our good fortune or for our blessings? I believe that we often get those two mixed up. I'm not sure the dictionary agrees with me, but I see a difference in being fortunate and being blessed. Fortune seems to be a secular term for having lots of resources. Being blessed, in my mind, includes the sacred element of power coming from God that gives energy to your soul so that you can pass on God's gifts to others. I believe we are blessed to empower others, to share our own soul energy in the forms of encouragement or equipping or energizing or giving strength and courage or wisdom, and that anything else that puts holy momentum in gear. I like to think that if I help feed hungry people, they can then face another day with hope. I like to think that if I contribute funds that result in a worldwide distribution of food, as in bread for the world, in developing countries, that people who can eat can improve their health. They might have a chance to get an education, or they can take better care of their children. So if I want to be a blessing to the guy with a purple towel wrapped around his shoulders, I not only need to help him find food and clothes and shelter and health care immediately, but I also need to work to change the systems and the people, give him people in his life who know how to encourage him and help him solve his problems. So as we seek a way to express our gratitude at Thanksgiving, as we count our blessings, let's do something that blesses others. Let's share our soul food. Let's do something that gives hope, encouragement, and opportunities. I guess we're saying, let us love others as we love ourselves.
As Sylvia was speaking, in my mind, because we are here at the Goodwin Center, and I do help with the food pantry, which happens every other Monday. I thought about the people that came last Monday to shop for food. It's set up like a grocery store. People have carts, which we provide. There like 5 or 6 carts, and we put 4 paper bags in each cart. People push the cart, they can go around, make selections as if they were actually in a grocery store shopping. And it gives them dignity in choosing items that they will actually need. And there are food items, there are some health items that are available. The only thing that the people have to do is to just sign their name, so we know how many we've served. They don't have to give information about where they live or what their needs are. Last Monday, we had 139 people sign in to do grocery shopping. And I think as West Newton Friends meeting, being here in the location where that happens, and that there's stacks of food around waiting for the next time that we have our grocery shopping, our food pantry. And there are some clothes that are available for selection. There are also a number of services that are provided, like people can come in, get information about jobs, about how to acquire certain things, to get information about health insurance, and just a number of other kinds of needs that the people might have. So I feel like we have a real connection from West Newton Friends being here, and a wonderful opportunity for us to be more aware of serving others who need our help.
Sylvia had talked about the word blessing, or being blessed. I have a friend in Arizona who has told me, when I say, well, you know, this small little thing that happened, I said, I was quite lucky. No, you were blessed. And so she would always say blessed. I never argued with her about it, but it just didn't seem right. So thank you for what you said.
If you have a hymn book, Norma will be playing number 127, Help Us Accept Each Other. Welcome to turn to that. I'm going to read 3 of the verses before she starts. Help us accept each other as Christ accepted us. Teach us as sister, brother, each person to embrace. Be present, Lord, among us, and bring us to believe we are ourselves accepted and meant to love and live. Teach us, O Lord, your lessons, as in our daily life we struggle to be human and search for hope and faith. Teach us to care for people, for all, not just for some, to love them as we find them or as they may become. Lord, for today's encounters with all who are in need, who hunger for acceptance, for righteousness and bread, we need new eyes for seeing, new hands for holding on. Renew us with your spirit. Lord, free us, make us one.
We've come to the time where we change from programmed to semi or unprogrammed meeting for worship. It's good to see all of you here. We invite you to stay with us for a few moments more of unprogrammed worship, but if you need to move on to other things, we wish you Godspeed and hope to see you next week. If all hearts are free, we'll close meeting for worship. Good to see everybody today. So Jonathan, what's the weather like in Kentucky? We forgot to ask you, did you get snow?
We didn't get any snow, but we've had rain, and it's been pretty cold. I think my niece got married yesterday, and for reasons I still don't understand, she opted for an outdoor ceremony. So it was not ideal. So we definitely got to reap the full benefit of the weather change.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, outdoor wedding in November it would certainly be iffy up here in Indiana.
Yeah, equally so here.
Well, you survived, so that's good.
We did, and congratulations to her.
Right, that's right. It sounds like it'll be a memorable wedding because of the weather, so
Yeah.
that's great. Oh,
Good to see you and your kitty.
Yes. Thank you.
your kitty worships about as well as ours does.
Yeah.
She only when she puts her, when is it her idea?
Right.
That's a cat. Yeah, that's a cat. That's right. Oh, well, we'll see everybody next week, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Chip.
Bye.